Hi, I'm Suz Mac Cormac, partner here at Morrison Foerster, who has been focusing on ESG and sustainability since around 2001. One of the things that I often get asked is, how is ESG evolving? What has changed over the last 2 years? And it's one of the reasons that we're working with corporate counsel on the survey. I would say there are 3 factors at play right now. First, when ESG as a phrase was first coined in 2004, there was very little, if any, regulation. And now there's a lot of regulation, not just in the United States, but around the world. The majority of it relates to disclosure, but there's also a lot of regulation of corporate action. And again, remember, ESG covers everything from privacy to cybersecurity to human rights to climate. So it's incredibly broad. And now there is a regulatory overlay. Second, there is a lot of anti-ESG backlash, which leads me to third, there is a lot more litigation, and the litigation risk is a lot higher now than it was a couple years ago. Some of that is born of the regulation. Some of that is born as what I view as sort of an over-exuberance to talk about ESG, where ESG was part of everything in companies and capital markets, and people really oversold what they were doing and how they were doing it. And that has led to material representation in terms of claims made to investors, to consumers, and to the general public. And we're just seeing a lot of pushback against that. I'm also asked, if I were the GC of a company, public or private, how would I think? Where would I focus in terms of ESG? There are areas of ESG, I believe, that are already very robust in terms of internal compliance. Anti-money laundering, anti-bribery is one for FCPA and the related regulations. I think as a GC, that is a very good template for how you think about climate, how you think about cybersecurity, and how you think about human rights. So in other words, thinking about the governance and how the board and management should be looking at this. Second, how you should be thinking about and getting data and ensuring compliance from your counterparties. That's both suppliers and customers, and service providers like Morrison Foerster, anybody with whom you interact. So thinking about that compliance function. If you think of ESG only in terms of compliance, you miss about 2/3 of ESG, and that is both the strategy and the opportunity. So really thinking about the ESG for which there is not regulation, but may be very material to your operations. An example is climate risk, really thinking about how climate risk is going to impact your manufacturing supply, your employees, thinking about just today and the massive heat that is across much of the world that is yielding disruptions in supply chain in addition to the impact on human life. And I think third is tying this, one of the things that is happening with ESG, it is being viewed much more similarly to financials. So tying this to the systems you have in place to ensure you know what is going on in your operations and with your value chain. So making sure you're getting good data, but more than that, making sure you have the processes from a governance perspective in place to be able to provide real oversight and to monitor. Third, how can companies really navigate the anti-ESG? I would rely on my litigation partners here because we do a lot of counseling. The 2 sort of hottest areas, pun intended, are climate and DEI, where many of our clients are getting sued or getting pressure if they come out too strongly with DEI and climate policies, and others are getting sued and being attacked for not going far enough. And so it's very difficult to sort of navigate that middle zone. The key is to really think about what you say and how you say it, particularly in public disclosure. I think a key is consistency between your voluntary disclosure and your marketing and your required disclosure, particularly if you're subject to the SEC rules or in the EU, CSRD, or any of the related regulations. So really making sure there's consistency, making sure that you have really good data to back up any of the claims that you made. And again, what I said in sort of my second section, which is really making sure you have a strategy of how you are thinking about this holistically for your organization.